Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm smart.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy hump day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy. And
the joylessness
I don't give
of
a
those
fucking
people.
miss. Blah.
Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
We're gonna go members only.
Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's off. Something's off.
I'm making coffee. Anybody want coffee? I'm making coffee. I'm having a cup of coffee. Does anybody want coffee? Because I'm having a cup of coffee. I'm making coffee. Anybody want coffee?
Anybody want coffee? That video cracks me up. Oh my God. Good morning. Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett. Welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we just question everything. And today we're going to be questioning, well, we're not really questioning this one, but we're going to be going over the civil filing that Rosemary Scapicchio did on behalf of Lindsay Clancy in a civil matter outside of the criminal. I have not, this is going to be mostly a cold read for me. And I wanted to sort of react to it in real time. I've been told by a lot of other law tubers and other content creators on YouTube that this civil filing is as important as the criminal case. And it's basically they are civilly suing the doctors and the prescribers who messed up with Lindsay Clancy's case. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Rebecca is not with me today. She is at the beach. She is on vacation. We are going to probably have a pretty full week for y'all because Rebecca's going to be on a week-long vacation starting on the 1st of August. So I will hopefully have some co-hosts in with me. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with me solo. But I think we're going to be covering the Clancy case, at least doing recaps of it. I know it's a difficult case to get invested in because it's so heinous what happened. It's just horrific. So fair warning, I am going to be going over some of the details of the civil complaint and the case itself in this civil complaint when I list the facts out as they've laid them out in the civil complaint. So just trigger warning right off the top. If you don't want to hear it, if you don't want to know anything about this case, that makes sense. I understand. And feel free to bow out. I will say, as for the legal stuff, the legal commentary for the criminal case, I would encourage you all to go watch Bob and Allie over at Defense Diaries. They are covering this case as well. And they have amazing legal takes, and they're just good people. So go follow them, go subscribe, go love them. And right off the top, we had a couple of new members sign up. I wanted to say thank you to. Hello, chat. Long Road to Adulthood. Thanks for becoming a member. We're happy you're here. We hope you join us on our Monday night cross roast where Rebecca drinks some frosé and I try to make her as uncomfortable as possible by watching cross-examinations from Karen Reed 1 and 2 trials. we have a good time. Last one went a little off the rails. I'm not going to lie. It was a little crazy. We we actually didn't cover a cross-examination in the trials. We covered the interview the Massachusetts State Police did with Julie Albert, which was so weird and awkward and uncomfortable and full of lies, in my opinion. Excuse me. D Cools, happy you're here. Got to work this morning. Very thankful for the company. I am glad to keep you company this morning. Good morning, Venus Blue Cupcake. Good morning, Gen X Erica. And Alberto Francois. Thank you for becoming a member. We're glad you're here. Rob, movie dude, gifted a membership. If you got one of those memberships, let us know. Don't forget to renew. We have a good time. This week, we haven't scheduled it yet, but this week we're going to be doing our pop culture members only for the Are You Fucking Kidding Me level. And we're going to be going over that new Scott Peterson situation over on A&E. So, as many of you know, Rebecca and I actually agree on this case. We believe that Scott Peterson did not commit the crimes for which he's convicted and in prison for. And I think some of the new evidence, which doesn't feel very new to me, feels like this evidence has actually been around for a long time, is really compelling. I think we're probably going to go over that. Should be a good time. And I expect that there are going to be some people who are really upset with us for saying our opinions. But, that's what happens. Mima, glad you're here. Great way to start the day. Mama Cuddles, good morning. Honey Kid, woke up just in time. Mama of a Medic, good morning from Canada. We love Canada here. Joy, good morning. Java Monster, hello everyone. Oh no, Miss Coffee. Miss Coffee says, been up since 3:30 a.m. Friggin' insomnia. Looking forward to this live. I experience that kind of insomnia all the time because of friggin' menopause. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry you didn't get to sleep. What happened to us? I used to be the best sleeper. I used to go to bed 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, could sleep solid all the way through for like 7, 8 hours. No issues whatsoever. Now it's like I have to have my earbuds in and a fan on me and a mask and a cooling blanket. And that's the only way that I can fall asleep. I have to listen to like ASMR or watch ASMR. And then that's the only way I can fall asleep. And that only lasts for a few hours. And then I'm up and then I'm back down. And I'm up and I'm back down. It sucks. That video is funny, isn't it? I'm making coffee. Anybody want coffee? That's me like every morning. And Diet Coke, of course. Let's see. Lex says, perfect timing driving to cheer practice to coach 25 10-year-olds. May the baby Jesus be with you, or whatever deity you believe in, because that's a lot. I don't think I could do that on a Saturday morning. I love Rosemary too, Mama Medic. She is one of my heroines. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll probably have some of the regular co-hosts in. I'll probably try to see if Ellen Marie Marsh can join me, maybe Maggie Freeling, possibly Sarah from Crime Scene. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Some of it is going to be me just covering the Lindsay Clancy case, so it might just like either watch along or do recaps, talk it out. I think it's a super important case, which is why I'm covering it. I know the subject matter is really difficult, but it's a really important case that I think we need to cover. As always, if you're on your way in, please like the video. It helps our algorithm. We're getting very close to 11,000 subscribers, which is just amazing to me. We've been around since late October of last year, so I feel like we're doing all right for a little channel. And obviously we welcome your super chats, and we're not the kind of channel that only reads super chats. Like we're not just reading comments because you paid us to. We try to include everybody, but the super chats are very welcome. And tips, of course, are also welcome. The tips are our favorite just because YouTube doesn't take, 30% from us for tips. There's a QR code at the top of the screen. There's also different ways you can send over a tip if you feel so inclined. There's Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal all at the top of the screen. And yeah, just tell people about our work. We work really hard on the show, and we love the work that we do. We want to keep doing it. And as you heard Rebecca say the other day, this is literally not me giving a sales pitch, though she said that what she was doing was a sales pitch. Rebecca just got a big, important job. And so I have to make it worth her while to keep coming back here. So help me convince her. Yeah, the case is hard, but so important, Mama Mobametic. I completely agree with you. Mondays are the best. We do double headers on Monday. So 8:30 in the morning, we do our sort of regular stream. This Monday is going to be packed because we have to cover all the stuff that happened with Turtle Boy stuff. So there was a decision from the judge on the anti-slap motion to dismiss, or the response, I guess, anti-slap to Karen Reed and Turtle Boy, the defamation case against them. And the judge, which we knew he was going to do, rejected their arguments for anti-slap. So we're going to talk about that. But we're also going to talk about this stupid, frivolous, ridiculous case that's happening in New Jersey now, which is, my hair's crazy, y'all. Why didn't you tell me my hair was so crazy? So I don't want to get into the full backstory of it. We're going to go over it on Monday. But Turtle Boy is now being criminally charged in the state of New Jersey for a case that never should have made it, out of the grand jury. Oh my God, my hair. What are we doing this morning? What are we doing with the hair this morning? And and I say frivolous, usually I think that's left for, civil cases, but this feels like vindictive, maybe is the better word. And I worry how it's going to affect his criminal case in Massachusetts. So we're going to talk about that, all things TB on Monday, and just update everybody on what's going on. Opening arguments for this case are happening on Monday as well. So I plan to cover that. And I will probably go over that with Rebecca on Tuesday. We might be like a day behind on the trial. And then Monday nights we'll do our crossroads. Monday night we'll do our crossroads. I'm not sure if we're doing crossroads yet or if we're doing the pop culture stream that we like to do, but we will definitely let you know, of course. Nora, Miss Garbage Brain. Tuning in while cleaning my oven. And no, that's not a euphemism. Oh, that could be taken so many ways. I need a normal person. I don't know what that means, Gen Toxic, but I'm definitely not normal. What does normal even mean, honestly? Yes, you said it right. He's my husband. I don't know what that means. Hey, Britt Happens, out of work hairdresser. Hey, morning Mel, might just be me. Is your audio through the mic? Oh, thanks for letting me know. Let me check. You are correct. Where did my mic go? All right, hold on. Give me a second. Why? The mic would have turned off. I appreciate you telling me that, though. Let's see. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Sometimes when I move my mic around too much, it disconnects. So I don't know if it's the cable or what it is. But give me just a second to turn it off and on. That's what we have to do. Oh, okay, hold on. I feel like Allie with Allie on Defense Diaries had the same issue the other day. There we go. Okay, is that better? Thanks for telling me about that. I appreciate you. Venus Blue Cupcake says this case will help set some lines for future cases, which unfortunately there will be. I agree. That's why it's so important. And it's we've already had one really important motion, like pretrial hearing, that Rebecca and I went over yesterday. Okay. that dealt with the press, which is why I thought it was important for us to discuss it, because that's, that's where we come from. And it was about basically not allowing the Boston Globe and the local media to show certain pictures of the children in this case, as well as release the 911 audio, which has already been released. I mean, it's out there. Everyone's sort of heard it, so I don't know what they were doing with that. But Patrick Clancy actually filed through his attorney to have that those pictures, some of the more graphic details, not released to the public, and he won that. So some of the stuff is not going to be shown to the public and the press, which normally I would not be in agreement about, but in this case, there's really no need to see any of that stuff, because that's not what this case is about. I know that's what the state wants to say it's about, but Lindsay Clancy has already admitted to what she did. She knows, and she has explained how and what happened, and so we know the end results of what happened. This is more about intent and proving if somebody was legally insane in the moment that they did the thing that they did. So let's see. Allison says, I'll be interested to watch your take on Scott Peterson. I've always believed he's so guilty, but interested to hear your take on why not. Yeah. I will say the Innocence Project is involved in this case, which I think is an important thing. There's DNA in this case, and those are usually the kind of cases they take on. So the evidence is compelling, in my opinion. And I think that Rebecca and I are pretty much on the same page about that, which doesn't always happen, obviously. Oh man, the cooling blanket, Lori, is chef's kiss. So I don't actually really put it on my body very much. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm having menopause sweats, I will grab the blanket for a second and just hug it because it's so cool. But more often than not, I find myself putting it on my face, because the one thing about the cooling blanket, it's amazing, but once you've been holding it or touching it or having it on your body for a certain amount of time, it just feels like a normal sheet or blanket after a while. So you have to kind of not touch it to make it cool, if that makes sense. Rob says, may I suggest an eye mask headband with flat speakers in it so you can lie on your side without earbuds jabbing you? Yeah, I need to invest in some flat earbuds because they make ones so you can sleep on your side. I usually sleep on my back, but in the middle of the night I flip over, and that's when I'm like, oh, earbuds. Let's see. Miss Blue says Jolene was great last night. I have not had a chance to watch her stream last night. I need to check it out. Although I'm so over all this stupid drama between the creators. To me, it comes down to, it's very simple. Karen Reed was not guilty. She was found not guilty by a jury of her peers, and the scientific evidence shows us that a car did not hit John O'Keefe, and John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. So at the end of the day, that's what rules everything. Whether you like Aiden Carney, Turtle Boy, or not, it doesn't really fucking matter, guys. It really doesn't matter. He exposed corruption in this county, and it was on display in the criminal case against Karen Reed, and it's on display in these civil complaints as well. So the idea that there are factions within this community who are turning on Aiden Carney and saying that he did intimidate witnesses now is just disgusting to me. It's disgusting. It's ridiculous. I don't really want to get into it. It's so petty and stupid, and it shows you that most of the people that are turning on Aiden right now, who still support Karen Reed, it feels to me like they're in it for the clicks and for the money, and they go where the wind blows, a la Plevin and Nan and Meredith and some of these people. So I don't really want to get involved in all the drama. It's annoying. I'm over the macchiato of it all. I am over this insane, in my opinion, woman, J7. I don't want to blow into that flame anymore, if you know what I mean. Yeah, Rebecca's right here. Boop. Have Ellen drag Joey in too, maybe? Perhaps. They're both so busy. I would love to have them both on, but Joey doesn't, especially for this case, I don't think Joey would want to talk about this case. Joey does not, from what I know of him, Joey doesn't really, want to get involved in these like really truly heinous cases as much as, Ellen and I like to talk about that kind of stuff. So not that I like to talk about heinous cases, but this is our job. This is what we do. But some people personally, for their own mental health, it's not great for them. So I don't know if Joey would be open to it, but I'll definitely ask him. Miss Blue, is there a chance of a Gaetani interview? I sure hope so. I have so much respect for Lindsay Gaetani, and I've reached out to her. I don't know if she's not allowed to talk, with folks like us, like if she's allowed to come on and do an interview and talk about her story, or if she wants to tell her story on her own terms, on her own platform, which I totally support, obviously. But we haven't set anything up yet. I hope so. If you guys want to mention it to her on the Twit, feel free. I don't know how much of the prosecutor I can handle live. Yeah, the prosecutor in this criminal case with Lindsay Clancy she's a lot. She's a piece of work, my grandmother would say. She's a piece of work. Let's see. Solo Mel is awesome too. Enjoy Rebecca Hart, Michigan says. Thank you very much. I always feel so strange when she's not here because we have, she's my bestie. And, for people who like Sam Beningo, Turtle Boy, Will the Glare, Jess Machado, all these people that go solo on their shows, like I commend them so much. It's difficult, you're just sort of talking into the void, sometimes responding to comments, but you got to keep the pace moving. Melanie Little, I don't know how she does it for 3-4 hours at a time. I know Peter Tragos, like most of his stuff is not, I don't want to say scripted, but he knows what he's going to be doing going into it. He's covering legal analysis, he's doing that. Brother Counsel, the same. But for those of us who have more entertainment, I would say, in our feeds, or making jokes and things like that, it's hard to do a solo feed, and it's also hard when your bestie's not with you. So I miss Rebecca today, but she will be back, and we will be doing a lot this week. So let's see. Elena, this is an interesting point. Elena says you do need a certain level of emotional maturity to talk about a case with 3 dead children and say the person who did it shouldn't go to prison. I would agree with that. Joy, thanks for the $7. Oh, Canadian bucks. Sorry, yes, I'm Canadian. I choose to super chat because it cost me $15 to send you $5 by PayPal. So F that. Yeah, F that. What the fuck? That's crazy. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I appreciate you nevertheless. Thank you so much for sending over $7. That's crazy. Ben Burnett says, hi, Ben. What's the name of your hairstyle? I learned that Boozy had a slick back hairstyle for her show the other day. Hair is fascinating. Hair is fascinating. Honestly, I go to my favorite barber, Kathy, and Kathy, I show her a picture of what I want, and it doesn't change very often, but and then she does that thing in the picture. I guess you would call it an undercut. This part's the undercut, but that's what I do. Find you a good barber there, and I would say I found my barber Kathy at Floyd's barbershop, which Floyd's are like, it's like a franchise. They're all over the place. And then she left Floyd's and opened her own shop. So I followed her. I would, if you want to be barbered and you don't know where to go, start with Floyd's. Let's see. Yes, I had a Turtle Boy Tech moment. Thank you guys for telling me about my mic, though. I do really appreciate that, because we also export this into audio for our Patreon and for my general feed over on the In Between podcast. So I did unplug it and plug it back in. Thank you, Rob. My stomach is growling. Can you guys hear it? Let's see. Aaron says creator versus creator drama makes money. I think some channels who are piddling down just go for it. I'd have to agree with you on that one. And we're seeing some channels piddling down. Yes, teacup. The weird part is when creators can't separate free speech and how huge this whole thing is versus their emotions. I think that can be said for a lot of people, not just creators. I think that's how we got to where we are politically. Okay. Yeah, I can't deal with the Cryford of it all, and the J7 and the J Brill and all the it's awful. If he would flip tomorrow, they would all love him. Fake, disgusting people. Agreed. I agree with this wholeheartedly, Colleen. They're missing the bigger picture. This is all much bigger than Karen and Aiden. The corruption runs deep. Yeah. And Aiden and Karen are responsible for exposing the corruption, not just in this county, but in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we have to give them their props for that. We don't have to like them. Like, we do not have to like them. I'm not a huge fan of Thomas Massie, like, in his politics, but I believe in the work that he's doing to expose the Epstein files. Can't we just agree that when you do the right thing, that's what you should be following? Even if I don't agree with everything Turtle Boy says, and he is very much opposite of me on the political spectrum, I've had many opportunities to speak with him, talk with him, have him on the show. He's a good guy. He has good intentions. His delivery is sometimes awful, brash, confrontational, yada, yada. And there are a lot of people that don't like him and like what he says. And you don't have to like him to know that he's right. That's all I'm saying. Can we have a collab with your wife? First of all, she's not my wife. We are domestic partners. And I appreciate that you would love to see Lindsay, but she is not in an industry where she can sit down and have these conversations. So she just pops in occasionally and shows her face because people wonder who she is. But I don't think we talk about true crime all day long because it's my job. I broke a little bit of news on the pod the other day that I am still sort of digging into. And that was a witness has come forward in the Pamela Smart case and has made accusations against the state, saying that they used that somebody testified in his name and it wasn't him in the original trial. And so Lindsay and I have been talking about it nonstop. We've both been doing our research, and like, she finds something and she sends it to me. She loves true crime too, but she's in an industry where it's not, great for her to get online and talk about that kind of stuff. So she does really important work as opposed to what I'm doing. No, I do important work too. I mean, I too am trying to expose corruption and, constitutional rights violations in these cases that I cover here on Something's Off, but also where I started on my podcast, the In Between podcast, covering, cases like Pam Smart's case and Veronica Rodriguez's case and the Sunnyside Grapist case. So, but she's, she raises money for cancer drugs and research. So I'm like over here doing my thing and she's over there trying to save the world. So, okay, let's see. Okay, this is a funny story, Rosie. So I saw Kathy, my barber, just a few days ago. Rosie says I would also ask someone whose hair you like where they get it done. the picture that I brought in to my barber yesterday or the other day, whenever I went to get my hair cut, was an actual picture I took of a guy. I saw this guy at a restaurant in Rehoboth Beach where we with the kids for like a week out of the summer. And I saw him across the restaurant. He was sitting with some of his friends at the bar, and I was like, God, I love his haircut. Like, he has a really good haircut. And so I walked up to him and I was like, I don't want to be weird, but your haircut is banging. Can I take a picture of it for my barber? And he was so open to it. So I took like 2 or 3 different pictures, like front, back, sides, everything. And that's what I brought into my barber. So if you see something that you like, take a picture of it. Bring it to your hairdresser, your barber, your stylist, whatever you want to call them. Elena says, I'm English, so Aiden comes off a bit mouthy / brash, but I appreciate him. Yeah, I'm mouthy and brash too. I mean, I don't say he uses language that I wouldn't use. And some of it I think he believes, some of it I don't think he believes. He's just saying it to get a reaction. And some of it he's saying it because he's angry. And he believes in free speech, as do I. And I've said this before. I have defended Macchiato. I've defended Meredith O'Neill, and I've defended Aiden Carney for their free speech. I don't agree with any of them on a lot of things, but I agree that they should be able to say what they want to say as long as they are not physically harming somebody. Or, I don't know, in the case of, like the rolling rally, for instance, Aiden wasn't intimidating witnesses. He was having a peaceful rally. They happened to be doing it by driving around town and using a bullhorn. That is not witness intimidation, y'all. That's not witness intimidation. If the people who show up at the pro-life folks who show up outside of like Planned Parenthood, they have a right to free speech. We may not like it. They may be saying horrific, horrible things and what sounds like threatening the people walking into those clinics, but they're allowed to say it. The Westboro Baptist Church, the reason why they are so famous is because they knew how to use our laws in their favor. The First Amendment protects their speech. They used to show up they started showing up at Matthew Shepard, the gay man who was beaten and tied to a post in the 90s and left for dead, who eventually died. They showed up at his funeral with pictures of his head in flames saying, Matthew Shepard's in hell. If you would go to their website and you clicked on the website, the first thing that would happen would be Matthew Shepard's head in flames and some man screaming in agony. That is protected speech. I know we may hate it and it may seem disgusting to us, but it is protected in this country. And I believe in it, because if you take away the rights of the Westboro Baptist Church or anybody else, then you're going to start taking away my rights too, and your rights as well. So we have to support those rights. We just do. And the amount of people who are just like throwing around the word defamation every time they don't like something they read, that's insane to me. That's crazy. Like, it's just, we have to educate ourselves. We have to be smarter than this. And some of us aren't acting very smart right now. Tara says that there are 239 people. There are now 255 people watching and only 35 likes. So hit the like button. Let's go, lesbians. Come on now, y'all. Okay. Let me get through the rest of these comments. Morning, Law Girls Not Attorneys. Go subscribe to Law Girls Not Attorneys if you are not subscribed to their channel. Very often they are the only people in the courtroom who are able to give us access to some of the cases that we cover and watch. And I just so appreciate them being so on top of their shit that they're like, we're here, guys. Don't worry about it. We got you. It's super helpful. So go give them a like and a subscribe. Let's see. Yeah, this is what I'm worried about, Patty. Patty said, I really hope his, meaning Aiden's, bail does not get revoked for the recent New Jersey indictment. Part of me feels like that's the plan. That was the plan from the get-go. The way this whole thing played out was so sketch. The woman who was accusing him got on the stand. You heard Rebecca say this, the other day. She was about to be cross-examined and she was like, I can't do this. She shut it down. She got rid of she pulled back her case. She canceled it. It was canceled. And within minutes, the state of New Jersey was going in front of a grand jury and indicting him. So to me, it feels like it's malicious. It feels like it's vindictive. And it feels like there might be some coordination between New Jersey and Massachusetts because they know he's out on bail. And that's fucked up if that's the case. Yeah. Let's see. We are adults with common sense. That's all it takes to understand everything that's happening. The Helena, says. I agree. Okay. Yep. Venus Blue Cupcake says WBC, which is Westboro Baptist Church, has also protested soldiers' funerals. They are vile humans, but 1A, First Amendment. We love the law girls. We do. Law girl said, we try, LOL, and I want that to show up. And when we get rejected, like in the O'Malley hearing this week, we tell you that too, which we appreciate. Thanks for reporting live from the courtrooms. And for if not for you, we wouldn't have had that split screen with Alan Jackson when he was going before the judge about Karen Reed's cell phones against Cosgrove. We would have only been able to look at the judge the whole time. And I think it's really important to see the attorneys who are arguing. So if not for you, the trial channel wouldn't have been able to do that split screen. And we're so thankful for that. Go like and subscribe to the trial channel too. She's amazing. And again, we wouldn't have access to some of these trials if not for the trial channel and law girls, not attorneys. So let's see. The cost of defending free speech ain't free at all. Justin Earthbound Misfit said, you are absolutely correct. Okay. I think we got through all the comments. I appreciate y'all. You're a lively bunch this morning. There are 270 of you in here now. So go like the video, subscribe, share it. Yeah, share if we're live. That's helpful too. We're on Twitter and on, so we're streaming to YouTube and Twitter right now. Okay. I am going to bring up, let me give you a little bit of backstory with this civil complaint. So let me make this bigger. Might be too big. So the civil complaint was first filed in January. So I was mistaken in thinking that this is the second amended complaint. I was under the impression that this was new. But when I went back and looked at the docket, this is Norfolk Superior, I realized that they had actually filed in January. So this is the second amended complaint. And I'm going to be focusing on this one because it's the expanded complaint. And I'll tell you the differences. Hold on, let me pull up my notes. So the differences between the first and the second, there were new lawyers added, but there were also new defendants added. So they added, the first one had 6 defendants. So Dr. Jennifer Tufts, Rebecca H. Halata, Astor Mental Health, South Shore Health Systems, McLean Hospital, Women and Infants Hospital of Rhode Island. And they had, a broad set of complaints against those defendants. And then there was an amendment filed in January that added a couple more. Let me see, expanded the name individuals. Yeah. So now so the second amendment complaint, or I should say the first amended complaint on January 27th, 2026, expanded to 2 more doctors, psychiatrists in particular, Dr. Aaliyah Goodhart and Dr. Zobaida M. Diaz. One, Goodhart was McLean and Diaz was Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island. And then there was the second amended complaint, which is where we are now. And this one was filed in May of this year. So Some new legal representatives were added, and then there was sort of a major structural overhaul and expansion of the case. So they expanded the defendants. They added 3 more individual providers, Dr. Elizabeth Madva, nurse practitioner Julie Paul, and mental health counselor Letitia Dukes. And that brings the total of the defendants in this case to 11, 7 individual providers and 4 institutions. And then they restructured the causes of action. So what that means is they basically expanded the initial complaint into 55 additional individual counts. So each of the 11 defendants was assigned the 5 distinct counts. So not a huge change in substance between the first and between the original, the first and the second amended complaint, but expanded for defendants in the cases. So I would like to read this for you. What we're going to do is we're going to go over the introduction, and then we're going to get through the facts. We're not going to go through all the charges because, I mean, it's malpractice. It's sort of an umbrella. There are a lot of charges in here, but they're all the same for each individual 11 people or entities. So, let's see. LS told Aiden earlier that her dad is a former judge with connections, right? It's no wonder she pulled this off. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility, Helena, which we can posit and, discuss on Monday. That's the woman in this case, Lindsay Clancy, I think her last name is. We're going back to the Aiden case in New Jersey. We'll get into it all on Monday. Yeah, again, we'll get into it Monday. She dropped the case. Lindsay Clancy dropped the case. The state picked it up and made it criminal, which is nuts. Oh, wow. Crazy. Inside information. I haven't verified this, but law girls say the doctor from W&I was promoted to the department head following the Clancy tragedy. So crazy. All right, let's get into this. This is sort of a cold read for me, and you're going to have to give me grace if I need to stop and catch my breath or take a drink. All right. Again, trigger warning. If you don't want to hear any of the details of this case, you might want to step away for a little bit. All right. Second amended complaint introduction. This is a medical malpractice action brought by Lindsay M. Clancy, Lindsay or the plaintiff. This action arises from the catastrophic failure of multiple medical providers to properly diagnose, treat, and monitor Lindsay's severe postpartum psychiatric condition, despite her repeated desperate pleas for help and her family's persistent efforts to obtain adequate care. Lindsay Clancy did everything a mother in her situation could do. She recognized something was wrong with her. She sought medical treatment. She went to emergency rooms. She called crisis hotlines. She admitted herself to hospitals. She took the medications prescribed to her. She communicated her worsening symptoms to her providers. She told them the medications were making her worse. Her husband advocated for her. That's Patrick Clancy. That's me adding that note. It's not in the filing. Her family drove from out of state to help care for her children, and still the medical system failed her completely. The defendants, Jennifer A. Tufts, Aaliyah Goodhart, Zobaida M. Diaz, Elizabeth Madva, Letitia Dukes, Rebecca H. Hoyata, Julie Paul, Astor Mental Health, South Shore Health Systems, McLean Hospital, and Women and Infants Hospital of Rhode Island, each failed to properly diagnose Lindsay's bipolar disorder with postpartum onset, and instead subjected her to a disorganized, uncoordinated course of polypharmacy that exacerbated her condition and precipitated a severe psychotic break. Lindsay's clinical course was, quote, significantly complicated by polypharmacy and the involvement of multiple prescribers, which in effect obscured an accurate diagnosis and appropriate intervention and treatment, end quote, even though Lindsay did all that she could to obtain the appropriate treatment. The psychotropic medications Lindsay received appear to have paradoxically exacerbated her underlying psychiatric vulnerability, precipitating a state of manic psychosis characterized by compelling command hallucinations. The tragedy that followed was the direct and proximate result of the defendant's collective negligence in failing to recognize obvious warning signs, coordinate care, properly diagnose Lindsay's condition, and provide treatment that met the applicable standards of care. All right, I gotta take a break. Take a drink. This is so strong. I love Rosemary Scapicchio, and she's a superhero. As a direct result of the defendant's negligence, Lindsay suffered catastrophic physical injuries, including permanent paralysis, and she lost her 3 beloved children. I don't feel comfortable saying their names. You obviously can read them. I will say their first names, I guess. Cora, William, and Callan. Lindsay now faces a lifetime of physical disability, psychological trauma, and the unbearable grief of waking up every day knowing she allegedly unalived her children, all of which could have been prevented had defendants provided competent medical care. Agreed. Okay, and then we just sort of break down the parties, which goes on for a while because there are 11 of them. They discuss jurisdiction and venue. So as far as I understand it, this is in Norfolk County again, but the court, can choose the jurisdiction because these providers are all over the place, mostly in Massachusetts, one in Rhode Island. Yeah, they're saying Scapicchio is saying the venue is proper in this court pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 223, Section 1. Okay. Now we are going to get into the facts. So this is where you want to protect yourself if you need to. Lindsay Clancy and her family. Lindsay Marie Clancy, born August 11th, 1990. God, she's so young. Was raised in Wallingford, Connecticut. Her formative years were characterized by consistent academic excellence, culminating in a distinguished record throughout college and a rigorous accelerated nursing program at Massachusetts General Hospital. 2. Lindsay's 9-year tenure as a labor and delivery nurse at MGH demonstrated notable professional competence and personal fulfillment. She was passionate about nursing and was dedicated to her patients. 3. Lindsay married Patrick Clancy in December 2016, and they established their family home in Duxbury, Massachusetts. 4. Lindsay and Patrick had 3 children. Cora, born December 24th, 2017. Dawson, born September 30th, 2019. And Callan, born May 26th, 2022. 5. Before Lindsay became ill, she was a dedicated mom who loved her children immensely. 6. Lindsay consistently conveyed profound affection for her children and her husband. She had never previously engaged in any form of physical harm towards her children. B. Lindsay's prior postpartum history. This is important because we've now established she is bipolar, and she had 3 children, and she suffered postpartum with all 3 of the children. So, 1, during Lindsay's first pregnancy with Cora, she experienced anxiety due to an abnormal ultrasound, finding that later resolved. She experienced some anxiety during postpartum period, but returned to part-time work and breastfed for 1 year without incident. 2, during the postpartum period following her second child, Dawson's birth, Lindsay was initially elated with increased energy. She had manic behavior for multiple days. In October 2022, she had an episode of decluttering to simplify her life, obsessively cleaning and discarding items. Her thoughts raced, and she constantly felt pressure to be active. 3, after her second pregnancy, anxiety emerged at approximately 2 months postpartum. Although Lindsay was offered Zoloft by a psychiatrist, she declined due to concerns about breastfeeding. Her symptoms resolved through exercise, healthy diet, meditation, and several therapy sessions. 4, these prior postpartum episodes, including the hypomaniac symptoms following Dawson's birth, were critical indicators that should have alerted competent psychiatric providers to the risk of bipolar disorder and the potential for more severe postpartum psychiatric complications following subsequent pregnancies. C, third pregnancy and initial postpartum period. 1, Lindsay gave birth to Callan on May 26, 2022. Both Patrick and Lindsay took parental leave following Callan's birth. 2, Lindsay demonstrated significant activation and hypomanic behavior, including an extensive program of exercise beginning only 1 week after delivery. She woke every day before the children at 4 a.m., ran 3 miles, did spinning for 30 minutes on the Peloton, and then 30 minutes of aerobics. On July 4th, 2022, only 5 weeks after delivery, she ran a 5-mile race. 3. Lindsay impulsively bought into a Beachbody multi-level marketing scheme, purchasing products to resell. She made videos of her exercise routines, posted them on Facebook, and encouraged friends to join the program. 4. These early postpartum behaviors constituted a hypomanic episodes that, combined with her history following Dawson's birth, should have immediately suggested bipolar disorder to any competent psychiatric provider who obtained an adequate history. D. Lindsay's desperate efforts to seek help. 1. At approximately 12 weeks postpartum, Lindsay's mood switched suddenly to anxiety and depression. She experienced debilitating anxiety, insomnia, sleeping only approximately 3 hours per night, and exhaustion during the day. She had no motivation and could not exercise. Everything about her body felt heavy and required effort. It was a chore to dress or shower. Her parents came from out of state to help care for the children. 2. Recognizing that something was seriously wrong, Lindsay took the initiative to seek psychiatric care. On September 12th, 2022, she found Dr. Jennifer Tufts online and scheduled an appointment. 3. At her first appointment with Dr. Tufts, Lindsay's Edinburgh postnatal depression scale, so we'll call it EPDS, score was 23, indicating severe depression. Dr. Tufts prescribed Zoloft, despite Lindsay's hesitation about medication due to breastfeeding concerns again. 4. Lindsay waited approximately 2 weeks before taking the medication, still concerned about its effects on breastfeeding, but ultimately began taking Zoloft in mid-October 2022 because she knew she needed help. 5. After increasing the Zoloft dose from 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams as prescribed, Lindsay experienced a severe adverse reaction. She did not sleep for 48 hours, had racing thoughts, worsening anxiety, and felt awful. This dramatic departure from her previous sleep patterns was an obvious warning sign of medication-induced activation consistent with bipolar disorder. 6. Lindsay promptly reported these symptoms to Dr. Tufts on October 20th, 2022. Rather than recognizing the significance of this reaction and conducting appropriate testing to determine why Lindsay had such an adverse response to a relatively low dose of medication, Dr. Tufts simply discontinued the Zoloft and prescribed Ativan and Benadryl for sleep. 7. After carefully tapering these medications, Lindsay's profound insomnia persisted, accompanied by distressing cardiac palpitations. Her condition continued to deteriorate. 8. On November 16th, 2022, Lindsay's insomnia had become so severe that she took herself to the emergency room at South Shore Hospital seeking help. She reported insomnia, anxiety, and palpitations. The ER doctor prescribed trazodone for sleep, but it was not effective. 9. Patrick's mother, a nurse at South Shore Hospital, contacted the South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health Program on November 20th, 2022, seeking additional help for Lindsay. Nurse practitioner Julie Paul reached out to Lindsay. 10. Lindsay reported to Nurse Paul that she was, quote, very frustrated and scared, end quote, experiencing, quote, extreme insomnia, end quote, averaging only 3 hours per night and having racing thoughts. Nurse Paul prescribed Prozac on November 21st, 2022. 11. After merely 4 days on Prozac, Lindsay reported that the medication intensified her insomnia. She immediately informed her providers and the Prozac was discontinued. I can tell you, this is a side note here, going cold turkey off of Prozac is not a good thing. And for somebody who doesn't respond well to Prozac, you really know that it's affecting you really early into the medication. I'm saying this from personal experience. I was prescribed Prozac when I was in my 20s, when I was in college, and I had a very, very, very bad reaction to Prozac, which included hallucinations. I was taken off of Prozac. They titrated me off, And then I was put on Wellbutrin, which really didn't do much for me except for drown me out, make me dehydrated, and make me sort of a shell of a human being. And so I was then taken off of that. I was no longer on any kind of medication until about almost 10 years ago. And the medication I'm on now is wonderful and it works and I love it. But I can tell you, as a 20-something college student, that when I was put on Prozac, it made me lose my mind for almost 24 hours. And it was not a good place to be. And I'm very thankful I had friends and a partner at the time around me who were able to recognize what I was going through and get me to the place that I needed to be, the doctor's office, where they could help me come off of the Prozac and get me onto something else, even though it didn't really work for me. So, okay. This was the second antidepressant that had caused activation and worsening insomnia, a critical red flag for bipolar disorder that providers failed to recognize. 12, on November 25th, 2022, Nurse Paul prescribed 3 different medications. I don't understand this. Ambien, Remeron, and Klonopin. And this is another personal story. And Remeron is an interesting sleep aid. Remeron is actually supposed to treat anxiety, as far as I understand it, and depression, but in lower doses, it helps you sleep. So, for instance, I take Remeron, which helps me sleep. I take a very low dose of it. So the Remeron tablets are only the ones that I have. I think there are 7 milligrams. I take a third of that to help me sleep. If I took the whole pill, it really wouldn't help me sleep. It wouldn't really do much for me because my anxiety and depression are already being treated by another drug. So Remeron really doesn't do anything for me if I take a whole pill. It only helps me if I take a third of that pill. So I'm literally taking like 2 milligrams of it in order to help me sleep. And so it's strange to me that they put her on Ambien, Remeron, and Klonopin. Even I know that that's not a great combination. That's bad. So on November 26, 2022, after taking Remeron, Lindsay experienced disassociation, perceiving the world around her as unreal, distorted, and distant. And I can tell you this. The first time I took Remeron, I took a half a pill. So 3+ milligrams. It made me feel, I slept, which was great. But for a full 24 hours afterward, I couldn't function as a human being. I couldn't drive a car. I felt like I had been drugged. I felt like I'd been roofied is the only way that I can think of it. And I said that to Lindsay. My partner, Lindsay. I was like, I don't know if I can take this. Like, I feel like I'm not human and I can't function. I can't do work. I can barely walk. I can barely stand up straight. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I'm so friggin' exhausted that I feel drugged to the point where I cannot drive a car. And that was on a half a pill. Now, like I said, the lower the dose, the stronger it is. And the very first experience I had was half of a pill, and that's what it did to me. Once I got a little bit more used to it, I was able to go down to a third of a pill. And that little tiny, it's a nugget. I don't know how to explain it. It's a nugget and it helps me sleep. It gets me through most of the night sleeping. And I don't feel groggy and I don't feel crazy the next morning and I don't feel like I can't function in society. But I can tell you that the very first time I took it was disorienting. I wouldn't say I experienced disassociation like Lindsay did, but I'm also not bipolar. But the world did feel distorted and distant and like I was drugged and couldn't get out of the drugged state. And that was terrifying to me. She was unable to determine what was real. That didn't happen to me. I am not bipolar. She became disoriented, forgetful, confused, and disconnected from her own body. Some of that stuff I did experience. She was unable to drive, same, and unable to be alone. I was okay being alone. 13, Lindsay reported these alarming symptoms to her providers on November 28th, 2022, noting she was still struggling, sleeping only 3 to 4 hours, and feeling disoriented and forgetful. Now, I want to add in all of the drugs she's already been switched around to, and then now we've got this 3 cocktail of Klonopin, Remeron, and I forget what the other one was, but doesn't really matter. This strange cocktail, she is dealing, like, it's bringing up her bipolar, and she has postpartum. And we will later learn that she has postpartum psychosis. So these drugs are not helping her, and the doctor should have been aware of that. I mean, a layperson can understand that. 14, on November 29th, 2022, Lindsay began treating with Nurse Holata, or Hoyota, maybe Hoyota, Nurse Hoyota. Lindsay reported that she was, quote, anxious and frightened about what is happening, end quote, and that she blamed herself. Nurse Hoyota correctly considered a bipolar presentation and prescribed Seroquel, an antipsychotic and mood stabilizer. Seroquel is a strong drug. So, it was Klonopin. That was what it was. After starting Seroquel, Lindsay's condition took a dramatic turn for the worse. She developed suicidal ideation and began experiencing what she described as intrusive thoughts, which were actually auditory hallucinations. The voice said, quote, I will not be the same. I want to unalive myself, end quote. And the other note that I will make here is many of you in the chat may also be on anti-anxiety, antidepressant medications, SSRIs, what have you. I don't know if your doctors have said to you what my doctors have said to me, but when I am prescribed these medications, they tell me what the side effects are, and they tell me the negative side effects. So for instance, I take sertraline, and if I have a higher dose of sertraline, for me, it causes agitation, and like I feel a little unhinged, and I feel angry, and all this stuff. And I definitely shouldn't drive because I'll probably have road rage. If I ever experience that, my doctor has said to me, I'm going to start you on this low dose. I basically started and I'm at a child's dose of sertraline. So I started at 50, I'm up to 75, right? If at the one time I went up to 100, which they were trying to boost me up. So the one time I went up to 100, that I felt that agitation. I felt the thing that she told me I might experience. And I immediately called her and said, hey, I'm feeling really agitated. I'm feeling like I'm mad at everybody and then I'm going to snap. And she was like, okay, good, drop back down to 75. What Lindsay was telling her practitioners, prescribers, doctors, is she was having the negative side effects of the drugs, but also some of the side effects she was experiencing should have signaled to them that she was bipolar, and that she was also experiencing that interaction, and that she was also, they also knew she had postpartum depression at least. And the idea that these doctors, knowing how quickly my doctor was like, okay, drop it back down to 75, no big deal. We're not going to go up to 100 for you. You are experiencing the side effects we don't want you to have. You cannot just prescribe all of this different cocktail of drugs to this woman, at least knowing that she's postpartum, and then seeing the signs of bipolar, having a woman wanting to put together a bipolar presentation, who then prescribes again another drug on top of what she's already taking. This is insane, people. This is nuts. Nuts. And Lindsay should have never been put in this situation. She was a practitioner herself. She was a nurse herself. She understood when she needed to warn people because she wasn't feeling right, and she knew it was directly associated with the drugs and the treatment plan. She did everything she was supposed to do. She did everything we are asked to do. Her husband did as well. Their extended family did as well. Her mother-in-law contacted, let me go back to it. Her mother-in-law contacted the exact place that she should have contacted for Lindsay. Patrick's mother, a nurse at South Shore Hospital, contacted the South Shore perinatal behavioral health program, seeking additional help for Lindsay. And then the nurse practitioner reached out. The extended family did everything that they were supposed to do as well. This is crazy to me. And the idea that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts knows all of this and is still trying to charge her with unaliving her children and put her away in prison for the rest of her life it's disgusting to me. But that's my opinion. Anyway, okay. 15. After starting Seroquel, Lindsay's condition took a dramatic turn for the worse. She developed suicidal ideation and began experiencing what she described as, quote, intrusive thoughts, which were actually auditory hallucinations. The voice said, quote, I will not be the same. I want to unalive myself, end quote. 16. Lindsay openly communicated her escalating internal turmoil to her husband, her parents, and her providers. She described her emotional state as, quote unquote, emotionless and, quote unquote, like a zombie, attributing her profound affective blunting to the Seroquel. On December 2nd, 2022, Lindsay reported to Nurse Hoyota that she had lost 15 pounds and had no appetite and was experiencing panic attacks and confusion and had a lack of attention over the past 4 days. 18. On December 2nd, 2022, Lindsay was seen by Letitia Dukes, LMHC. Counselor Dukes noted Lindsay had unmanageable anxiety about her children. She responded by requesting addiction support services. 19. On December 4th, 2022, Lindsay was so frightened by her hallucinations that she called the New Bedford suicide hotline seeking help. She was told there was no emergency because she said she had no specific plan as to how she would unalive herself. Let that sit with you for a moment. I'm going to take a sip. This bothers me so much. Ugh. 20. On December 5th, 2022, Lindsay met virtually with an Aspire crisis support clinician, again seeking help. She was told that she did not meet the criteria for inpatient treatment because she did not have an unaliving plan. Fuck all y'all. This is insane. 21. On December 6, 2022, Lindsay attended an appointment with Nurse Hoyota. She was accompanied by her husband, who connected her symptoms to starting medications in September. Keep in mind, this is December now. Specifically, he reported that she had 48 hours without sleep, nor feeling tired in the setting of an increase in her Zoloft dose from 25 to 50 milligrams. That's a really low dose, by the way. Like I just told you, I started at 50 milligrams of sertraline, and I'm only up to 75. I was told by my psychiatrist 50 milligrams is a child's dose. And she was experiencing sleeplessness for 48 hours between upping her dose from 25 to 50 milligrams. And here's a little anecdote. I went to film school. I went to a conservatory. So it was almost like, it wasn't a private school, but it was similar to like a Juilliard, but for filmmakers and actors and dancers and set construction and yada, yada. So it was a tough program. It was like military school for filmmaking is the only way I can think of it. We had a demerit system. We had all these things. Filmmakers, especially young filmmakers, are prone to literally work their asses off and not sleep. One of the things that we were warned about as we went into the practical portion of the conservatory, which means outside of the study of film and television, we were moving into actual production. And for those of you that don't know, especially within like narrative film, so movies and television, not necessarily reality or documentary, although they do the same. With narrative film, because you're dealing with so many unions, you have a tendency, the shoot days for a production are usually at least 12 hours long. Oftentimes they can go 16, 18 hours long. So you are on set 12 to 18 hours with very little sleep because you have to work outside of production. So we were warned as students right off the bat going into our physical production phase of the conservatory, that we have to sleep. And that if you don't sleep for 3 days straight, which people are prone to do in the film industry, if you don't sleep for 3 days straight, you can literally, I'm using that word as I mean it, literally go insane. If you, after not sleeping for 3 days, if you stayed awake for 3 days straight, you can go insane. They warned us against that. They had mental health practitioners available to all the students at the school because they know the students take their studies and the job that they're about to do very seriously, and they want to be the best, and they don't want to get kicked out, and they don't want to get demerits, and they want to pass all their exams, and they all want to pass all their practicals. So there were times that I knew of students who were taking like no-dos and, you know, those 5-hour energy drinks. And that's when I was introduced to Red Bull and, you know, double, triple shots from Starbucks and whatever, just to get through a 12-hour to 18-hour production day. But there were kids who just wouldn't sleep. And I saw lots of kids have to leave the program. And so hearing that she wasn't, with all this stuff that was going on, and that she hadn't slept for 48 hours, that really terrifies me for Lindsay. That's crazy. She was on the verge. And obviously we know that she was no longer on the verge, but full on at some point. Okay. Again, I'm adding the again part here. Nurse Hoyota considered a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Why are they only considering it? Why are they not diagnosing it flat out? When I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, it took a lot of talk therapy to get there, but my therapist knew almost right off the bat that I had complex PTSD. And she prescribed for that. You know, it took one session to understand that I had complex PTSD. So I don't understand why they keep hemming and hawing over the bipolar diagnosis. I don't understand this part of it. Hoyota planned to taper Mrs. Clancy off of benzodiazepines with a switch to volume and to discontinue her mirtazapine, which mirtazapine is the Remeron that I was speaking about, and Seroquel. 22. On December 13th, 2022, Lindsay remained deeply depressed, had no motivation, still had unaliving ideation. She wanted, quote, this to be all over, end quote. 23. On December 15th, 2022, Patrick called Nurse Hoyota's office to report that, quote, Lindsay has had a devastating week, end quote. And that, quote, it was the worst day for Lindsay. She had horrible, in all caps, thoughts all day, end quote. Lindsay had auditory hallucinations all day, every day. She felt debilitated, not interested in anything, exhausted, and could not get out of bed. The hallucinations were loud and continued all day, saying, quote, I will never be the same, end quote. I will never be me again, end quote. And you, and quote, you are damaged. You will never be the same. The only option is to unalive yourself, end quote. 24. Lindsay told her husband, Patrick, quote, I have thoughts of harming the kids, end quote. She also told her mother about these thoughts. Because she was in a psychotic state, Lindsay also had paranoid delusions that people could hear her thoughts and that she would be locked in a hospital and have her children taken away. It's interesting to me that she has, you know, this is what psychosis looks like. On the one side, she has this voice in her head telling her to unalive her children. And on the other side, she's paranoid and is filled with anxiety about having her children taken away from her. This should sort of tell you, this breaks down the duality of what was happening in this moment and should tell you her actual baseline motivation was to make sure her kids were okay and that they weren't taken away from her. And that's the way I read it anyway. Okay, here we go. 25. Lindsay's escalating suicidal thoughts. I said the word, damn it. Prompted a visit to the MGH hospital or MGH emergency room on December 20th, 2022, where she sought help. The emergency room suggested either admission to McLean Hospital or the partial hospitalization day program at Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island. E. Women's and Infants Hospital and Dr. Diaz's failure to properly treat Lindsay. 1. On December 20th, 2022, Lindsay admitted herself to the partial hospitalization day program at Women and Infants Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island, a program intended for patients with postpartum depression. This was yet another active step Lindsay took to seek help for her worsening condition. 2. Lindsay's chief complaint at WNI was, quote, "I feel numb and crazy depressed," end quote. She reported feeling, quote, "crazy depressed, numb to all emotion, can't feel love," end quote. That her, quote, "life is becoming a disaster," end quote. That she couldn't, quote unquote, feel fear. And that she was, quote, "messed up beyond repair," end quote. She had lost 15 pounds in a month, had no motivation, and reported that, quote, "it takes all the effort in the world to just breathe," end quote. 3. Lindsay's EPDS score at WNI was 23, indicating severe depression. Her generalized anxiety disorder 7 item, which was the GAD score 7, score was 21, higher than the threshold for the most severe category. I'm going to read that again because it's confusing. So her EPDS, or her Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale score, was 23. That indicated severe depression. Her generalized anxiety disorder, her GAD-7 score, was 21, which is higher than the threshold for the most severe category of depression. 4. Despite these severely elevated scores, Dr. Diaz, the attending psychiatrist at Women and Infants, concluded that Lindsay had, quote, "no postpartum depression," end quote, and rejected a bipolar disorder diagnosis because of, quote, "no history of hypomania or psychosis or family history," end quote. The fuck is wrong with this woman? Not Lindsay, the doctor. This conclusion was negligent in part because Dr. Diaz failed to obtain an adequate history. Dr. Diaz's own notes documented that Lindsay's sister had experienced postpartum anxiety, a relevant family psychiatric history that should have been explored. Had Dr. Diaz properly inquired about Lindsay's early postpartum period, she would have learned of the hypomanic episode that began immediately after delivery. That's referencing the organizing and getting rid of everything episode that we spoke about earlier after one of her children was born. Dr. Diaz also failed to recognize that Lindsay's providers had previously considered bipolar disorder, as documented in Lindsay's records, stating she was started on, quote, Seroquel and concern for bipolar, end quote. 5. Dr. Diaz accepted Lindsay and Patrick's belief that her symptoms were due to over-medication and recommended weaning Seroquel. The clinical team at WNI posited that Lindsay's symptoms were, quote, more pharmacologically induced than purely depressive, end quote. Dr. Diaz's assessment/plan documented the, quote, WIH-DHP is not a suitable treatment facility, end quote, for Lindsay. Yet Dr. Diaz failed to recommend or arrange appropriate alternative treatment and instead discharged Lindsay after only 1 day of treatment with inadequate follow-up care. 6. Women and Infants Hospital determined that its day program was not appropriate for Lindsay and reached out to Nurse Hoyota to discuss Lindsay's care. Nurse Hoyota did not respond to them. Awesome. Nice job, guys. Great job, practitioners in Massachusetts. Good job. This is a woman who has been saying that she wants to unalive herself and she wants to harm her children. This is a woman who hasn't slept for 48 hours. This is a woman who is doing everything she's supposed to be doing by reporting her symptoms and what's going on with her. And this Nurse Hoyota did not respond to the doctor who reached out to her to talk about it. There is something wrong with our medical system in this country. Just going to say it flat out, in my opinion. 7, Dr. Diaz and Women and Infants' negligent failure to properly evaluate Lindsay, obtain an adequate psychiatric history, and recognize the signs of bipolar disorder with postpartum onset resulted in a missed opportunity to provide appropriate treatment. You think, Miss Scapicchio? I think you might be right. I think you're onto something there. Their recommendation to wean Seroquel without providing a proper alternative treatment plan or ensuring adequate follow-up care contributed to Lindsay's further deterioration. And there's more. F. McLean Hospitals and Dr. Goodhart's failure to properly treat Lindsay. 1. Following the Seroquel reduction recommended by W&I, Lindsay's unaliving ideation resurged. By December 29th, 2022, Lindsay told her husband, quote, "I can't tough it out anymore. I need to go to McLean," end quote. 2. On December 30th, 2022, Lindsay went to the MGH emergency room, which suggested admission to McLean Hospital. On December 31st, 2022, Lindsay admitted herself to McLean Hospital, the nation's top-ranked psychiatric hospital, due to her severe depression and unaliving ideation. 3. Lindsay's admitting symptoms included passive, unaliving ideation, feeling detached, hopelessness, depression, no appetite or energy to perform activities of daily living, no motivation, anhedonia, racing thoughts, inability to organize her thoughts, memory problems, anxiety, and insomnia. Her insight and judgment were documented as, quote-unquote, limited. 4. Lindsay's admission note was authored by Elizabeth Madva, MD. Following a review of Lindsay's history, Dr. Madva noted that she agreed with the impression of Lindsay's providers at MGH that Lindsay's presentation seemed most consistent with postpartum anxiety and depression, and she had very low suspicion of emergent bipolar disorder. These people are nuts. These people are crazy. I mean, I know I'm talking about mental health disorders and I'm using the words like insane and nuts and crazy, but that's the way it feels to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody by saying that. The way that she's responding to these drugs on top of the postpartum, it's the way that she's responding to the drugs that tells the doctors that she has bipolar. Why are they so quick to dismiss that she might be bipolar? I don't understand that part of it. I really, really don't. It's no skin off their back if they diagnose her as bipolar, right? Number 5, McLean placed Lindsay on a locked unit with 15-minute suicide check. I said it again. Unaliving checks. However, the care she received was grossly inadequate. She was admitted on New Year's Eve, and there was a skeleton crew because of the holiday. Patients spent their evening doing puzzles and coloring. Nurses stayed behind a desk and glass. Lindsay did not see a doctor until January 3rd, 2023, 3 days after admission. 6. On January 3rd, 2023, the doctor advised Lindsay to stop Seroquel and benzodiazepines and prescribed trazodone for sleep. Again. On January 4th, 2023, Lindsay asked if she could go home for Cora's birthday. Because her thoughts had improved since the Seroquel was decreased, she was approved for discharge. 7. Lindsay was discharged from McLean Hospital on January 5th, 2023, after only a 5-day stay. Dr. Goodhart authored and signed the physician discharge summary, approving Lindsay's release despite her documented, quote, limited, end quote, insight, judgment, and unaliving ideations. Lindsay was returned to the care of the same outpatient providers who had been previously providing allegedly substandard care. 8. After discharge, Dr. Goodhart from McLean called Lindsay and spoke for only 10 minutes, offering names of antidepressants. The staff at McLean suggested amitriptyline, yet another antidepressant, the very class of medications that had repeatedly caused Lindsay to have adverse reactions. 9. When Lindsay was discharged from McLean, she thought, quote, I was just in the best hospital in the country, so there is not much hope, end quote. She decided she must appear like she was okay and, quote, had to do her best, end quote. Dr. Goodhart's and McLean's hospital's negligent failure to properly evaluate Lindsay, obtain an adequate psychiatric history, provide sufficient inpatient care during her brief admission, and ensure appropriate discharge planning and follow-up care directly contributed to the tragic events that followed. Dr. Goodhart, as the discharging physician, approved Lindsay's release after only 5 days, despite her documented, quote-unquote, limited insight, and judgment on her ongoing severe symptoms. All right. We're going to go into another section here, but I know that I am very, very far behind on the chat. So I just want to get some of your insight and questions. There's a lot. We're going to have to go back. Helena said she doesn't belong in prison. What she did is horrendous, but it could all have been avoided. Agreed. Science and Sath said, once she started having hallucinations, she should have immediately been tapered off Seroquel. A second-year med student would know better. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks for sharing this. Dexter saves us from the Commonwealth. I'm bipolar, and you need to have stabilizing drugs. Also, it took forever to find my correct cocktail of meds. I hear that a lot about folks who have been diagnosed bipolar. Sounds like our mental health system is medical malpractice, Lady Harlot said. Agreed. Raginator said, this is what for-profit healthcare leads to. I 1000% agree with you on that, Raginator. Oh, Jen, I'm sorry you're crying at the market basket. No one should be crying in market basket. That's a happy place. I'm sorry. Let's see. Sertraline is Zoloft. Yes, it is. Well, it's a knockoff brand. Yes. Healthcare is a team, Rage Knitter. I agree with you. Yep. This is how I felt, Kelly. Prozac made me want to unalive myself after only taking for a short time when I was postpartum. Prozac is scary. It's a scary, scary drug. Tall Red Texas said, this explains a lot of the problems in Hollywood. You are absolutely correct. I assume that you're talking about our lack of sleep. Yes. Yeah, Chris Buckley says, Mel, your film school story reminds me of medical school, from the demerits to the sleep lectures. Yeah. I mean, obviously we're not doing the same kind of work here. Filmmakers aren't necessarily saving anyone's lives, but they have the same schedule as like an emergency room doctor. It's really crazy. And it didn't change. I've been out of the film industry for a long time, like working day to day within Hollywood or the studio system. I'm sure it hasn't changed much since I've been in it. It's one of the reasons why I got out. It made me into a very unhealthy person. All right. Commonwealth Decoded. Thank you so much for the £5. Watching from the UK. Love your content. Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Yeah, if you want to do a super chat, we love our super chats. Obviously, you guys know we don't just read super chats in here. So when you do give us a super chat, I know you're going above and beyond, and we really appreciate that. And if you feel like tipping, you can tip through Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. Everything's at the top of the screen. We really appreciate the tips. We do work hard over here at Something's Off. We laugh a lot, so maybe it doesn't seem like we work hard, but we work pretty hard behind the scenes. And there's just the two of us. So anything you guys can do to help, either, and if you're not able to do tips or super chats, totally fine. Just, like the videos, subscribe, share the channel, tell your friends about it, show up, be present. We love ya. Yeah, Rage Knitter. This is what I feel too. Rage Knitter said, God, I can feel the hopelessness Lindsay experienced, this poor woman. Mm-hmm. Lady Harlot, I want Dr. Diaz on the stand. They have some explaining to do. They sure the fuck do. Law Girl says, easy to say no history when you don't bother to get the history, right? Christ. What is wrong with this system? Tall Red Texas says she was released prior to speaking with the nurse practitioner with 4 or 5 exclamation points, and then unacceptable with 4 big red exclamation points. Exactly. Oh, this is such a sweet comment, Rage Knitter. You are a lovely human being. I'm so glad you're here. Mel, can I just tell you, I have never experienced a chat so caring and open as the one you have built. Love you and your audience. We love you back. You guys are amazing. And we've had some pretty strong debates over the past couple of weeks, and I love the debates. I do. I love it when you guys come with good faith arguments and we can talk this out and hear each other. And I just hope that people that think that Lindsay Clancy, a lot of people have already said she's guilty. I mean, people do that. People say that in all cases. She admits her guilt in the actual act of what she did to her children. But what happened before that and leading up to that and in the moment was not her fault. And that is my personal opinion. It is the fault of all these people and all the things that I'm telling you about from this civil complaint. And they should be held accountable. As many of you know, just a few weeks ago, I was going through, and this was not life or death by any means. Oh, Danielle, very sweet of you. Thanks for the tip. But I changed insurance companies under the umbrella of a major insurance company. Keep that in mind. I was with Anthem Blue Cross. We switched to Blue Shield of California. So Blue Cross, Blue Shield. And I had to get authorized again for a drug that I had been on for 10 months. And my doctors and the pharmacy and the insurance company would not properly communicate with one another so that I could get the drug that I needed. And I was off of it for a full month. And I was arguing with the pharmacy who was treating me like a moron, even though I knew what I was saying was correct. And my doctor was saying they couldn't give me prior authorization, even though they had 10 months previously. And the insurance company was like, you have to prove new things to us about why you need this drug when I'd already been on it for 10 months. And that's for a drug that wasn't life or death. Imagine what would happen if someone needed insulin or in this case, I mean, we're seeing it play out in this case. The doctors, the pharmacies, the prescribers, the insurance companies, they do not know how to communicate with each other as much as they tell us they do. And another level to that, my doctor's office, my trusted, lovely little local doctor's office was purchased by CloseKnit. And CloseKnit is a corporation and a franchise that takes over these small doctor's offices and they turn it into a 1-800 call center, which means you can no longer call and talk to the front desk people that you're used to talking to in person and on the phone. You can no longer call and talk to your doctor. You have to, if no one at the front desk answers, they patch you through to an 800 number that is not even in the state that you're in, not let alone the town or the country or the county. And all they can do is say, I will send a message to your care team. And nobody ever follows up with you. So you have to repeatedly call this 1-800 number back. And then when they're not answering and they're not taking care of you, you have to call your insurance company. And then the insurance company is like, well, let's talk to your doctor's office. And you explain to your doctor, your insurance company, you're not going to get through to my doctor's office because they're a 1-800 number now. And so then you have to sit on the phone with the insurance company on hold while they wait on hold to get through to the 1-800 number that used to be your local doctor. And then finally, when someone picks up, that person on the other end of the line tells you and your insurance company, who are on a 3-way call, will send a message to your doctor. That's not how this should work ever. Can we agree on that, everybody? Please, on both sides of the aisle? Can we agree this is not how it's supposed to work? And this, what we're seeing with these prescribers, this is not how it's supposed to work to ensure that young babies, little babies, are not unalived by their own parents because they're not getting the proper treatment they deserve and need and want. Ugh. Don't make me slip into a Slim Jim. voice, because that's where I'm at. The manic cleaning should have been the biggest clue. I agree. That was a very big clue. It's one of the first things that Rosemary broke down too, when she was breaking down, what Lindsay was experiencing after the birth of her children, and that was a very important. It tells me that Oz, and because Rosemary is Rosemary, what it tells me is she's already consulting with experts who are telling her this all went very wrong, and here are the reasons why. And that's a very good thing for Lindsay and her family. Okay, let me get through some more. How much, this is a great question, Mel. How much of this stuff is the judge going to disallow as evidence? I don't know, but it scares me because, like I said before, and I'll say it again, judges and prosecutors have a ton of power in any case, every case. And if the judge thinks this is somehow prejudicial, I don't know. I don't know what to expect, but I'm worried about it. Let's see. You guys are talking about a lot of meds and stuff that I don't know a lot about, so I'm skipping over some of those comments. Mima said, I'm floored. Lindsay was put through the ringer. She certainly was. Oh my God, Melanie. I am so sorry to hear this. Melanie says, I have a cousin in active mania from bipolar. My family is not educating themselves, and they are continuing to plan her wedding for September. What should I do here? God. I don't know what to tell you, Melanie. I mean, try, I guess, talking to the cousin first to get, their sort of approval of what to do next. But if you think that she or they are a danger to themselves, an intervention is appropriate in my opinion, but I can't advise you legally. I'm not a doctor. I'm just another person on the internet who's had some personal experience with these things, but I would, first of all, you need more than just you. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah. If anybody in the chat has advice for Melanie, please share it. My husband is an ER doc, Kaylee says. I have told him about the meds in this case, and he lost his mind. Sending trazodone home with any patient from the ER is diabolical, more so with Lindsay considering the other meds. Yeah. When I first heard about the trazodone I was like, I know emergency rooms who have done that before to other people, and it's not great. It's not a good thing. Mal said, yesterday someone well-meaning asked if we didn't care about the children. I think we need to ask if U.S. medicine and the U.S. legal system care about the children. I agree. Okay. I was hospitalized. You guys, I just want to say one thing. The fact that you all are sharing your personal stories about your experiences with mental health and being hospitalized and the care and prescriptions and everything that you've endured and been through, I really appreciate you. Please don't feel like you need to share your personal information. I am a very open person, so I try not to keep anything hidden from myself or other people, because I feel like sunlight is the best medicine. Oftentimes, speaking about things, talking about your truths is really important. So I just want to preface any comments that I'm reading about people's personal hospitalizations, medical history, mental health, all that stuff. I appreciate you all so much for sharing it with us, but don't feel like you have to. And if you don't want it read aloud, please make sure you say that. Psych Justice said, I was hospitalized at McLean 20 plus times and can confirm that what Lindsay experienced is the typical substandard care McLean provides. Had to move out of Mass to get my life back and escape abusive systems. I'm very sorry that happened to you, and thank you for the insight. It's good to know what you experienced and how it aligns with what Lindsay was experiencing. Sleep deprivation is now noted as a carcinogen also. I didn't know that. Genosaurus rex. I don't know if that's I don't know. I'll let you guys deal with that in the chat. Okay. Oh, Rage Knitter, thanks so much for gifting a membership. If you got the membership, let us know. And don't forget to renew your memberships. No one thinks you don't work hard, LOL. You would be surprised, Lady Harlot. A lot of people openly tell us that we are hacks and that we don't work well. We don't work hard. But I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. Thanks, Nikki. Do a thumbs up and subscribe. Ding, ding, ding. Mal says, Mel, have you seen the new BBC report on the Letby case? Mind-boggling nonprofit health systems are better than in the US, but certainly not trouble-free. I covered the Lucy Letby case. I covered it on the In Between podcast, and I think I also told Rebecca about it here. So we went through it here as well. And I would agree with you. All of our health systems are taxed. And I don't mean that with taxed with money. I mean nonprofit health systems like they have in the UK and for-profit health systems like we have here. All of the doctors and nurses are under huge amounts of stress. Patients too. We've got to figure out a way to make this work. And I know it's even nonprofit, it's all about money because you're dealing with universal health care. You're dealing with taxes, paying for universal health care. So we have to figure this out though. There are countries who don't suffer like this, but these are the major countries like, the UK and here. We are definitely struggling. It's like they intentionally gaslight. Yeah, that's what it feels like, right? Okay. Some of these are personal and I don't feel comfortable reading them, so I'm going to leave them. Okay. National Alliance on Mental Health has a website that may be helpful for supporting your cousin. That's for Melanie. Thanks, Law Girls. Another normal mom says, I've been to McLean. All it is a waiting room. We need a mental health show. My boys call me BB says, we need a mental health show. I don't think I'm the one to do that. I'm sure there are other people that are way more qualified to have a show about mental health. I am not one of those people. Tall Red, Texas. You're very sweet. Mel, your heart is so open and pure joy. Not always, but I feel very strongly for people. I'm an Aquarius. I want the future to be brighter and better for our kids. And in order to make that happen, we have to fight. So it's like, I'm sure that's where the justice, like passion stuff comes from, is me being an Aquarius, but we have to fight. We have to like change the systems to make them better for the future. Like, I'm so worried that our girls are going to live in a world where they don't have the choice about their own health. I mean, we're already there in some states. Like, I'm so terrified our oldest kid is going to go to a college in the South. So I'm not saying this to offend anyone in the South. I'm saying this because they won't have the care they need if they become pregnant in the South, and they can be in trouble in the South if they decide they don't want to be pregnant anymore. And that scares the ever-loving shit out of me, because that's not the way I grew up. I know our mothers grew up that way, but that's not the way I have lived for 50 years of my life. And so the idea that our kids are going to have a shittier existence than we experienced as Gen Xers, Come on. I'm terrified of this. And especially with all the mental health issues that our young children have. I mean, our kids they went through COVID. So, our oldest missed almost the entirety of middle school. She was only in 8th grade. And our youngest missed a good portion of, before middle school. And luckily she was able to go through the entirety of middle school, which middle school is a shit show anyway. But these kids were stuck in their houses for 2 to 3 years and lost a good portion of what it means to be a kid. And that's why they're so connected to their devices, because that's what they had when they weren't allowed to leave the house. So I'm worried. I'm worried about all of them. Apothecaria says, as a pharmacist, I promise we aren't, quote, not communicating, end quote, intentionally. I have zero control over doctors' offices or insurance companies. Pharmacies get stuck in the middle often with no way to resolve. I understand that. I think what I am most upset about with my own pharmacy, and this is not your pharmacy or any other pharmacy, but my own pharmacy, was that when I called to speak with them and when I went in to speak with them, because they're literally across the street, and I tried to explain the entire situation, they gave me the wrong information. The pharmacy actually set this whole thing off and giving me the wrong information. So I won't go into the whole thing, but they basically said, your bill for a drug that costs you $30 is $500 and your insurance has already approved it. And that's the amount they told us it was. And that was absolutely 100% incorrect. And they repeated that what they saw as a fact to me for close to a month. Even when I had the insurance company call them, even when I had the doctor's office call them. And so there's this certain level of what you just said, which is I have zero control over the doctor's office or insurance companies. We're stuck in the middle. There's no way to resolve it. And so they just throw their hands up in the air, my pharmacy, and they go, this is what they're telling us. You go deal with your insurance company. And it's like, I am dealing with the insurance company and they're telling me what you're telling me is incorrect. So there's got to be a way for all of us to get on the same page without blaming each other. Oh, Samantha, thanks for the tip. That's really sweet of you. I want to share this. Let me make sure that it's okay with Samantha that I do share this. Hold on a second. Before I share it. Substack. It's not what I'm looking for. Where'd it go? Okay. Samantha tipped $20. Thank you. So generous. Appreciate you. And they said it's for Lindsay Clancy, Mel, and all the chatters sharing their stories and mental health struggles. I'm so glad you're all still here and still fighting. Me too. Thank you, Samantha. That was a very kind message. I appreciate you. Okay, let me get through. We got some gems. Thanks, Becca. I have no idea about the gems yet. We got to look into it. Rebecca and I have no idea, but they show up and they're colorful and I appreciate it. Mal said, when children are the victim, society demands to punish someone and loses all sense of evidence. Richard Allen, West Memphis 3, so many bad convictions. Mal, I think you and I are on the same page about this stuff. Okay. And then free Richard Allen, Breen says. Breen. Oh, okay. This is very sweet, BB. My boys call me BB. I hope I can also call you BB. Mel, you're one of the few that I'm comfortable talking about my mental health with. I appreciate that. Just keep in mind that you're talking about your mental health in public with a lot of people watching and listening. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with it. I'm so glad you feel comfortable with it. I just want you to protect yourself. Okay. I got to get through some of this here. Okay. I feel so lucky. My pharmacy has the nicest guy who remembers everyone and their names. Very rare. Teacup says, I used to have that too, and I miss it. I miss it. I miss mom and pop pharmacies and doctor's offices. I'm not going to lie. I feel like an old person saying that, but it's true. I feel like I found the greatest doctor after I moved to, just outside of DC and from Mass. And I didn't have like a doctor I really connected with. I didn't have a team in Massachusetts. But I found a doctor here and she's so amazing. She's still my doctor. I can't talk to her anymore. Like I can't, we'll do telehealth and I'll go to my visits, but like I have no connection to her anymore. Where I used to be able to message, she would message me. Like she asked about my life. She knew about my partner. She knew about our kids. She knew about my life. And now I can barely talk to her. It's insane. She's upset about it too. She hates it. Absolutely hates it. Okay. Let's get back to this. We are on section G, continued deterioration under Dr. Tufts' care. 1. Lindsay returned to treatment with Dr. Tufts on January 6, 2023, the day after her discharge from McLean. Dr. Tufts diagnosed Lindsay with quote-unquote chronic, quote, major depressive disorder, single episode, moderate, end quote. Yeah, the woman's having hallucinations. It's not moderate, okay? Jesus, Dr. Tufts. She recorded that Lindsay's psychiatric condition was quote-unquote deteriorating and that her medication was not effective. Despite her poor condition, Dr. Tufts met with Lindsay for only 17 minutes. 2. At Cora's birthday party on January 7th, 2023, Lindsay was not herself. She smiled, but could not converse. She avoided talking and could not make sense of what others were saying. And so obviously they have witnesses to this because this is secondhand information. 3. Lindsay's hallucinations resumed within 1 week of her discharge from McLean. 4. On January 10th, 2023, Lindsay returned to Dr. Tufts and was switched to Valium for a benzodiazepine taper. Dr. Tufts indicated that, quote, at some point we will add an antidepressant, end quote. On January 16th, 2023, Lindsay was still experiencing debilitating depression. She had to force herself to do anything. The hallucinations continued, quote, you should harm the children, end quote. You should kill yourself, end quote. Quote, you will never be the same. The only option is to unalive yourself, end quote. She felt like a quote unquote zombie. Dr. Tufts prescribed amitriptyline, another antidepressant, at 10 milligrams per day. 6. On January 20th, 2023, because Lindsay was having such awful thoughts and was so numb and emotionless, she researched, quote, what is a psychopath, end quote, to see if she was one and whether there was a cure. It's awful. 7. On January 23rd, 2023, during another 17-minute appointment, Lindsay reported being, quote unquote, a little more anxious, with heart racing and, quote unquote, more AM anxiety. Dr. Tufts recorded that Lindsay's, quote, mood is the same, flat/anxious, end quote, that she had, quote, no motivation, numb, end quote, and, quote, has to force herself up out of the house, end quote. Her sleep and medication efficacy were, quote unquote, poor. Her insight was, quote unquote, poor. And her psychiatric condition generally was, quote unquote, unchanged. Dr. Tufts increased the amitriptyline to 20 milligrams per day. That night, Lindsay did not sleep. H. January 24th, 2023. On January 24th, 2023. Oh, Ratio, thank you for the tip. And I will read your comment shortly, okay? Thank you. Very generous. This is where it gets ugly, so just warning you guys, trigger warning here. Lindsay woke severely depressed with unaliving thoughts. She gave the children breakfast. She took Cora to the pediatrician because Cora complained of a stomach ache. Later, she went to the backyard with the children, built a snowman, and sent a picture to Patrick and her mother. The suicidal hallucinations continued all day nonstop. Later in the afternoon, the voice began saying, quote, you should harm the children, end quote. Lindsay thought about dinner and realized she had not prepared anything. She asked Patrick about takeout. She looked at a map to see how long it would take because she did not want to be alone and needed help. 3. As soon as Patrick left to pick up the food, there was a loud, demanding, repetitious voice, quote, this is your last chance. Unalive the children so you can unalive yourself, end quote. And then this is all in all caps. I am not going to dramatize this at all. I'm just going to read it. quote, "This is your last chance. You have to unalive the kids so you can unalive yourself," end quote. Lindsay felt a force come over her. 4. Lindsay experienced command auditory hallucinations. A, quote, "demanding, powerful male voice," end quote, explicitly ordered her. She felt an overwhelming, irresistible compulsion to comply, entering a dissociative, quote unquote, dreamlike state where her physical actions felt utterly disconnected from her conscious volition. She perceived her, quote, "body was just acting," end quote, and she was merely, quote, "watching herself do it," end quote. She reported she had no choice but to follow these compelling directives. 5. Lindsay described, quote, "I lost all control. My body started acting without any control on my part. I was just following commands, all action. This voice demanded action," end quote. 6. Lindsay proceeded, as alleged, to strangle each of her children, uttering, quote, "Go to God, baby," end quote. Following these acts, she undertook a severe unaliving attempt, ingesting a substantial quantity of various medications, self-inflicting lacerations to her wrists and neck, and jumping from a second-floor window approximately 20 feet to the ground below. 7. Lindsay suffered catastrophic injuries, including a thoracic spinal cord injury resulting in permanent paralysis below the sternum. She also suffered multiple closed fractures of her cervical and thoracic vertebrae and multiple rib fractures. 8. Cora and Dawson died on January 24th, 2023. Callan succumbed to his injuries and died on January 27th, 2023. 9. Lindsay consistently maintains her actions were compelled by a hallucinatory voice, not a conscious decision, and expresses profound, enduring love for her children. Oof. Okay, let's all take a moment. That was a lot. I would like to take a 5-minute break, if that's okay with everyone. I'd like to come back in 5 minutes to recap what we've just talked about and talk about what's going to happen going forward. If you guys don't mind giving me 5 minutes, that was a lot, and I would really appreciate it. How about I play a little fun music while I'm gone? Okay, I'll be right back. Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm smart.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy hump day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett. Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy. And
the joylessness
I don't give
of those
a fucking
people.
Blah.
Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
This is
Pull it,
literally
Jimmy.
because it's 100. It's been happening for the past day.
Oh, dear God. Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf was on the TV. Am I right? Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf was on the TV. I'm sorry. This is very funny.
What are you laughing about?
Because you're just sitting there waiting for the video to start.
I was listening this whole time. You
Listening to what? You're not playing anything, and now you're frozen. God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me text Mel. Let me call Mel real quick. I'm going to call Mel.
No, I'm not answering your call. I'm not doing it.
I don't think.
Why is it? Oh, Jesus.
Maybe go back on the Wi-Fi.
I am back on the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now? Can we do the show now? Should we do the show now? Rebecca? Rebecca, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Internet. Hello.
Hello? Hello, worldwide interwebs. Can you hear me? Let's do this. I have to look at my phone over here.
We're gonna go members only.
We're the ones who chase. Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's up. Something's up.
Okay. I'm back. Sorry for that. I just needed a little break. And I wanted to say thank you. And I always pronounce your name wrong. I know you've corrected me before. I'm pronouncing it Razio. I'm not sure if that's right. But hold on a second. Let me see. Thanks for the $25 tip. I really appreciate you. My niece has POTS and other health stuff. My sis tells docs, you're experts in your fields. I'm an expert in my daughter. I'm an important part of the team. She's just one patient to you, but she's my entire world. Don't do your rounds without me. My niece would be, I got cut off. Where the rest of it went. Anyway, I appreciate the comment. I love that her mom does that for her and that she says that. That is such good advocacy. Really happy that she does that. Okay, I know that was a lot. And we're all still here. We're all still good. Take care of yourself if you need to. And where we are now, I kind of touched on this briefly in the beginning. I'm not going to go through the counts. The counts are this is a 56-page document, and the counts start on page 19. But the counts are, it's all malpractice, medical malpractice. I think it's very obvious even to a layperson. And when this gets in front of a jury, I'm hoping that a jury sees this as well, that it's medical malpractice and that they find in Lindsay's favor. And, keep in mind, Patrick, her ex-husband now, who is remarried, is in support of Lindsay, and I think he's testifying in the criminal trial, but she deserves to win this civil fight, in my opinion. And as far as the criminal trial goes, like I said, Rebecca and I are probably going to this week do some recaps of it. We have a full day tomorrow or Monday. So Monday morning, we are going to do our stream that, talks about what's going on with Turtle Boy and the new charges against him. And we're also going to come back later that night at 5 p.m. to either do a cross roast or our pop culture stream. We'll let you guys know as soon as we know. And then on Tuesday is when I will talk to you all. I'm going to watch the opening arguments for this criminal trial, which happens on Monday. I believe court starts at 9 a.m. So we will be in our stream at 9 a.m. As soon as we're done with our stream, I'm going to jump on. I don't know if I'm going to jump on live, but I'm going to watch what I missed. And if I feel like it's important enough, I will go live. So I might be on for most of the day on Monday talking about this when we're not doing Turtle Boy and Cross Roast. And then on Tuesday, I will sort of walk Rebecca through the openings. That's the plan so far. So if you're still interested in this case and you want to be here, we're happy to have you. And I will definitely keep you updated on what the schedule is going to be. Let's see. Now we're going back to Scott Peterson here for a moment. 7460 Becky says, I don't think Scott did it. I don't think he did either. What did Mal say? Practical question. How does the U.S. prison system handle quadriplegic, and what harm to society could she do, even if guilty? Why prison? That's the question I have too. And I know that she will have good medical if she's in prison, but this woman's prison is her own mind. She has to live with this for the rest of her life. And if they have figured out the right cocktail of drugs for her, that means that she is a rational thinking human being, or she will be. And she will think about this every single day for the rest of her life, whether she is in jail, whether she is in a mental health facility. From what I understand, she basically could go to prison for the rest of her life or be admitted to a mental health facility, and they can determine whether she is let out or not. But keep in mind, if she is let out, if she goes to a mental health facility and they release her at some point, let's say 6 months down the road, she is released. This woman is still living in the prison of her mind, and she is going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. And she will have to have help with that. She will have to reform, like start new relationships. She will have to rely on a lot of people to help her. This is not a beautiful life. It can be. She could probably turn her experiences into advocacy. And I think she would be an amazing spokesperson for our mental health system in this country and our medical system in this country. And so I personally think she could do more good for the world outside of prison. It's my opinion. And I know that maybe sounds extreme to some people, but that's what I think. I think that there are certain things that we go through in life, take prison out of it, but there are certain things that we go through in life that give us the unique ability to move forward in life and help other people because we've experienced it. And that could even be someone who has committed homicide or unaliving someone. And I can use myself as an example, not that I've ever unalived anybody or ever had thoughts about doing that, but I have definitely experienced homelessness. I've experienced sexual assault and abuse. I am uniquely, with my experiences, qualified to talk about those things and how I dealt with them and how I can help other people now. You know, I'm one of those people that every time they see a person who is unhoused will stop and talk to them and make sure that they have hydration and food and pretty much whatever else they need if I can give it to them. I do not believe that all unhoused people are just out there standing on a corner panhandling because they want to make money for booze or drugs or whatever it might be. Some people are doing that, but the majority of people have either had mental health issues or they have suffered financial issues. So either a recession or depression or anxiety, or they were like Lindsay, were not taken care of within the mental health and what am I trying to say? Within the mental health system. And because of that, they lost their home. Because of that, they lost their ability to drive or whatever it might be. There are people, a lot of the unhoused population stems from mental health issues and from domestic violence situations. There is a small portion that is also not a small portion. There is a portion of that population that is addicted. And that's another reason they're homeless. The reason I was homeless was because of financial issues. So you all know that I lived and worked in Hollywood. When the 2008-9 recession hit, Hollywood shut down. A lot of Hollywood shut down, especially the Writers Guild. Many of the unions wouldn't go to work. They couldn't go to work. The only industry in that area of California is the entertainment industry, music, film, television. And when that shuts down, there are a lot of people out of work. And the only other industry that I see that happens in that area is like the food industry. So, when even the people at McDonald's in that industry are suffering and are getting laid off and don't have jobs, imagine what the rest of us were going through. We didn't have jobs. I'm not saying that either side has it better or makes more money. It's not about that. I was in the middle of a production on a $10 million feature film that I was directing when my investors lost a lot of their money because of the recession. And then part of my investors got hit by a once in a lifetime flood that hit Tennessee, and they lost all of their investments in Tennessee. So I lost my investments from them. Because of that, my executive producer and I both lost our houses. She had a mortgage, I had a rental, but we lost those things. And I lived in my car for a while with my cat and all my stuff. And then I tried to come back from it. And being in that situation, there's really no coming back from it for me. And so I took one last job in Hollywood, a job that I didn't want to take, but I knew would pay me enough money to get me out of there. And that's what I did. I was a ghostwriter on a script that I didn't want to write, but I wrote it anyway, and they paid me to do it. And I got my car fixed up and I drove back to New England. But those, couple of weeks where I didn't have a cent to my name and I was living in my car, which had no Wi-Fi, so I couldn't get a job from my car. I had to go to a cafe that had Wi-Fi. I could use my laptop and my computer there. And that's how I was able to get another job. But I thought I was going to die. I thought I was done. I thought the cat and my cat Tallulah, may she rest, she was my best friend for 18 years. I thought we were done. I was 3,000 miles away from my home and I had no one. And so I feel qualified to talk about homelessness. I feel qualified to talk to the people who are homeless. And I think that Lindsay Clancy is in a uniquely qualified position to help people on the other side of this. And I hope she gets the opportunity to do that because she can help more people than it would harm her to put her in jail for the rest of her life. That's completely my opinion, obviously. Okay. Bobby Jean says, is there a diary Lindsay kept with all these dates, doctor's appointment, med changes, etc.? I don't know, but I do know that her husband and her family were heavily involved in her care and advocating for her. So there's got to be a record of it somewhere. These are all very specific dates with very specific pieces of information and details that came out of them. Lindsay seems to me like the kind of person who would do something like that, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Okay. Luna said, my niece would not be alive if not for her mama. Love you, Mel and chat. Your empathy is why this is hard but needed. Keep it up. I appreciate you. I appreciate you too. Thank you. Yeah, Patrick is a defense witness, Becky says, and I think that's true. D Cool says, not that my opinion matters, it does, but I did enjoy as much as one can when we watched trials live this spring. I did too. I covered the last time that Rebecca was on vacation, I covered the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case. Now, I knew going into that it was a bench trial and it was probably only going to be 5 or 6 days long, so that was easier for our schedule. I don't know what to expect out of this. I expect this is going to be at least weeks long. It's a big case. And when I have an opportunity to sit and watch it live with y'all, I will do that. I may do it some of the weeks, like I said, Rebecca's leaving on the 1st. She won't be back until the 8th. So that week we might do that, depending on what I can do with my schedule. I have 2 days out of the week where my schedule is tough until about 11:30 in the morning. So I might be able to do it with you, but we might have to backtrack and be a couple of hours behind everybody. So we'll figure it out. I will say this though. Defense Diaries if you want the legal aspects of this case and you want the legal commentary, they are the place to go watch this. There are other places where you probably shouldn't watch it. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to name those places, but I think you know who they are. Chris, Rebecca and I are covering the Peterson doc this week. It's either going to be Monday night or some other date this week, but we will definitely let you know. We'll put the schedule out on the posts in the Something's Off YouTube. Another normal mom says, if she goes to prison, I will lose all faith in this life. Please don't lose all faith in this life. I understand. We can get angry about it and we can keep talking about it, which is what we're doing. But please don't lose all faith in your life. Simna, this is an interesting comment. In my paralegal course, we went over the Scott Peterson case. I remember thinking there was reason to believe he didn't do it. There's a lot of reasons, including no DNA. And here's what I'll say. This is the one thing that really solidifies it for me. The prosecution says in the trial that Scott Peterson he unalived Lacey in their home. He then wrapped up her body and put her body in his boat, which was being towed behind his truck. Actually, I'm sorry. He put her body in his truck with the boat attached to the truck. He drove 90 miles to the marina, took her body in broad daylight. He had to do this in the parking lot, basically, where all of the bays are in the marina, and it was a busy day. He parked the truck outside of the bays, so it was open to the public, moved her body from the back of his truck, the bed of his truck, into a tiny little aluminum boat, unhitched the boat. He launched the boat from the truck, took the boat out into the middle of the water, into the San Francisco Bay, and then proceeded to lift her unalived body out of the boat and into the water. The first thing that doesn't make sense to me, because I've seen the defense's examinations and the experiments they did with the exact same aluminum boat, where they put a fake body in the boat that weighed the same amount as Lacey did. And they had one of their assistants go out into the boat where they said Scott did this and push the boat over the side and push the body over the side of the boat. They tried it multiple times. Every single time they did it, the boat capsized. The boat sunk. And the judge would not allow those videos in front of the jury. Now that's the beginning part of that problem. The other part of that problem is they're saying that the house to the truck to the boat to the marina, and then also the warehouse that Scott was renting where the boat was, that's 5 crime scenes. And there wasn't a speck of DNA, blood, anything. There was nothing in any single one of those crime scenes where Lacey's body was. That, to me, that solidifies it. That's what I think of it. You can talk about the character stuff all day long. Guys, I don't want to get into this right now because I really want to talk about it with Rebecca with you. So let's hold off on that. I could go off right now, and then we've already been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So, let's see. Oh, good. Just Aunt B said that we've peaked. Y'all have piqued my interest on Scott Peterson. I'll be down a rabbit hole this rainy weekend. I would suggest, if you aren't familiar with the new evidence, a lot of the new evidence has been around for a while, and they're just sort of detailing it now, and they're trying to show the documentarians for the A&E documentary are basically like, okay, here are the new pieces of evidence. Let's weigh these out in real time and figure out if it's possible or not, which I find fascinating. Rebecca, I think thought it was pretty boring, but I would suggest go watch the A&E documentary. Especially if you're not familiar with the new evidence, it really, really lays it out, and it's really helpful. Because I know about Jess said, why do you think she'd have good medical if in prison? Hubs worked in a max almost 30 years and sadly not true. maybe not true for the prison your husband worked in, but as far as I understand it from people I've spoken with who have been in prison in Massachusetts and in New York, they have great medical. They're taken care of. You know, if their teeth aren't doing great, they get all new teeth, like heart medication. There are some prisons, don't get me wrong. There are some prisons who have shitty medical because they just don't give a shit. And because we also have a for-profit prison system in this country. So I won't say all prisons. How about that? Are people supporting her outside of the courthouse? Another normal mom. I don't know. I would assume not like they were for Karen Reed. I would assume there are going to be some people, and I think there are probably going to be some people who are very much against her and think that she should be convicted, guilty, and go to prison for the rest of her life. Okay. Psych Justice says people who cause harm to their own children from PPP, postpartum psychosis, are generally not a danger to the community because the harm almost always arises from hallucinations in the context of the parental relationship. I don't know if that's your opinion or if that's what you know for sure, but I agree with that as an opinion. Agreed. Unused barren area said agreed, and yet she shouldn't be obliged to advocate. No, she shouldn't. But I know well, I don't know. What I would say is I know that any of the experiences that I've dealt with where I feel like I can advocate now, it compels me. Those experiences compelled me to advocate. So that's all I would say. Oh, thanks, guys. Mel, this is recorded. Don't admit to ending lives on the stream. I wasn't admitting to anything. I said I didn't do it. I said I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it. I don't think about that for my worst enemy. I'm just saying. Don't come and get me. Lady Harlot makes a very good point. This isn't just about Lindsay. It's the legal and social precedent that this would set if she's found guilty. I agree. Could be very bad for our justice. It could be very bad for future defendants. Yes. Mm, mm, mm. Another normal mom. Thank you for sharing this. I know it's hard to talk about some of this stuff. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that would not want to admit that they've been homeless before. I say it because it is a part of my makeup now. And I think it's important to who I am as a human being. And it also helps me see other people that sometimes aren't seen. And I think that's important too. Another normal mom said, my quote unquote boyfriend put us into eviction and went to work and never came back. I was homeless until a year ago because of it. I'm still not on my feet like I was. You will get there. Use all the systems you have available to you, and don't be afraid, and please don't feel embarrassed or feel any guilt or any shame about what you went through. And I know that it's difficult right now, but you're still on your feet. You may not be like you were, but you are still on your feet, and it does get better. Especially because your system it looks like it doesn't involve mental health issues. This was because of somebody else that put you in a bad situation. I'm glad you're not in that situation anymore. But it will get better. Oh, Caitlin said art department person here hasn't changed. Art department, you guys deserve all the accolades. I think art department is who our professors were warning when they said, make sure you get some sleep and don't stay awake for 3 days, because art department are the people who will stay awake for 3 days to build a set. And they are amazing human beings, but they are the workhorses, and they will stay awake for 3 days just to get a set built. So thanks for the work you do, Caitlin, and please get some sleep. TC Nerd says, because of her own homelessness when young and with a small child, J.K. Rowling funds a woman's shelter in Scotland. I know. I was just in Edinburgh, and we definitely did some Harry Potter tours and things like that. But J.K. Rowling's story has always been interesting to me. And though she has some takes that I don't fully agree with now, and I know she's a controversial character and a lot of people hate her now, she has done a lot of really good things for women. And this is one of those things. And so I'm going to give accolades where I see them. Yes, Finland has the best model to change homelessness, Shaza said. Finland does a lot of things well. Proud to be a quarter Finland. Finlandian? Is that what it is? Let's see. Yes. This is what I always try to keep in mind every day of my life, Apothecarius. I think most people have very little understanding of how close they are to being in a completely different life circumstance. All it takes is one bad choice, freak accident, etc., to lose everything. Or, a gigantic recession that makes a lot of people homeless. Yes. You can lose everything. That flood was crazy. I live in Tennessee, Aaron says. I love Tennessee. And when they told me that the Grand Ole Opry had been flooded, I was devastated. But I was also devastated because all of my investors were coming from Tennessee. They lost all their money and I lost all my money. But you know what? At the end of the day, I did need to get out of Hollywood. It was making me into a shell of the human being I once was. And I'm glad to be out of it. And I'm glad to be doing things on my own terms now. It took me a while to get back around to it. But I feel like what I'm doing now, including this show and including the podcast and the investigative work that I do and telling stories, is what I always wanted to do. I didn't think it would be this, and I absolutely love it. And it happens to be on my own terms, which really helps a lot of things. Well, on my terms and Rebecca's terms, which often align. And if they don't, we communicate really well about it. Let's see. Yeah, Law Girls says I've heard 6 to 8 weeks for the Lindsay Clancy trial. That's what I've been hearing too. I didn't want to quote it because I wasn't really totally sure. Emily C got the Penny McGee info. I saw that. She posted it on Twitter just to show you the difference in discovery between Karen Reed and Penny McGee. It's very fascinating. Have a look at it. And also go like and subscribe to M's channel, and also check out the FOIA and Find Out site. They're just doing such good work. Kyle Sharkey, and Corey Hopkins, and Ben Burnett, they're all doing such good work, and I appreciate all of them. Let's see. Brother Counsel is covering it too. Brother Counsel is really amazing. That's another good subscribe if you want legal commentary. He is very concise and funny about his legal commentary, and I really appreciate. If I need to understand something, I generally go to Defense Diaries, Peter Tragos, and Brother Counsel to figure out. And sometimes, and Larry Foreman too. On Monday, I'm going to talk about something that Larry Foreman talked about in his most recent video about Attorney Diller from the wrongful unaliving civil suit with Karen Reed and the O'Keefes. He makes a really interesting point, a piece of information that he discovered about Diller's motivations in these cases, and it's fascinating. I'm going to talk about it on Monday with Rebecca. D. Cool says, I don't want legal commentary. I want Mel pausing the stream to yell at the judge or a prosecutor. Oh, you know me really well, D. Cool. That's me to a T. Yep. These no DNA cases really get me. And then you have Edric Foss case where there is DNA, but I don't trust that the DNA came from where they said it came from, and it's 25 years old. DNA has put people away, it's exonerated people, and it's still, parts of it are still a faulty science. So we have to be careful when talking about DNA, but you would expect there to be material from a heinous and brutal crime would be at the crime scene and on the perpetrator to some extent. And so when that's not present, I'm always like, wait a minute, you guys, wait a minute. Like, for instance, the case that I'm researching and investigating right now, which is the Sunnyside Rapist case from the late 80s, early 90s in Morgantown, West Virginia. The man who was accused of 30 plus grapes in that county was a predator. Obviously, the police wanted to put someone behind bars and they got somebody. He was excluded. The man who was in prison for this was excluded from all crime scenes. His DNA was excluded. There was male DNA there. There was male DNA present on very intimate pieces of clothing from the victims, and he was excluded from those, and he is in prison. So we have a lot to talk about with DNA. I think DNA is fascinating, but I don't think we fully understand it yet, and I don't think I think we put a lot of weight on DNA sometimes, and it's, I don't know, debatable. Yeah, this is how I'm feeling. I know Rebecca feels this way about it, Miss Priss. Miss Priss says, I think Melanie Little is going to do recaps because of the heaviness of the topic. I agree. If I can watch it, and there are some of you who are interested in watching it with me, I will do that. But otherwise, I think we are going to be mostly recapping it. So I will let you know for sure, though. TC nerd. When I say no DNA, when I say no bodily fluid, how about bodily fluids and DNA? We're going to say DNA and bodily fluids. I can imagine that because Scott and Lacey shared a home, that there would be difficulty differentiating the DNA, although they can differentiate DNA between male and female. And her DNA would be present in the home. It should not be present in the bed of the truck, like bodily fluids or DNA like that, like blood spatter, blood, any kind of blood should not be in the bed of the truck, the boat, the warehouse. But those are the 3 and 4 with the house crime scenes that they're talking about where Lacey's body was. And there's not a speck. But you know where there is blood? In the back of that burned out van that several witnesses saw Lacey being pushed into. And that hasn't been tested as far as I know. But I think the Innocence Project is getting involved in that. Okay. Forever Zennial. Scott is a putz, but I also don't think he did it. Exactly. Period. I can't believe I'm saying that because of years, for sure. Because for years I was for sure he was guilty. I was sure he was guilty. He's an absolute putz. He's a dumbass who cheated on his wife and tried to cover that part of it up. But I don't think he did it. I think he's just a dummy. Yeah, jail and prison are very, very, very different. Another normal mom said, if I hold up a liquor store, I can get new teeth. I think it depends. It depends on what prison you go to and if you get convicted. Lady Harlot says, yeah, the convict crowd is pretty loud and fervent in this case. And I get it. I understand why. But I also know that in listening to the commentary about this case and hearing from both sides, I don't think that there's going to be a jury of 12 people that will convict her. It'll either be a hung jury or it'll be a not guilty. That's my opinion. And maybe I'm speaking too soon. I definitely haven't seen the evidence, like all the evidence that's going to be presented. So I'm interested to hear the prosecution try to convince me, because that's what the defense has already convinced me of their side. I want to hear the prosecution convince me. Let's see. Lori Phillips says, some people will not see beyond. She unalived her babies, throw her in prison for life. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Simna is right about this. Precedent is not set in trials. They're set in the appellate, which is true. But if this case, if Lindsay Clancy doesn't win the criminal case, they will appeal, and that is where it will be set. So the appellate court will have to make a decision. And so I agree that maybe they will go against the ruling if she's found guilty, but it's really difficult to win an appeal. I think we all know that. And so if the appeals court turns her down, then the conviction stands, and it does set precedent in that case. Let's see. Patty says that Clancy did have a diary. Prosecution is going to interest in trial, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know about that, and I do hope that that's the case because I'd like to see it. Oh, I just got a yawn. Sorry. Okay, let me get through a couple more comments, and then I do need to get going because I have a date. So, let's see. Apothecaria says, I love LawTube. I came to find other creators after subscribing to Runkle. I love how thoughtful and respectfully most of the channels in this bubble review cases and come from an educational angle. I agree. I do too. Why do I think Scott Peterson ran? I mean, I'll get into this more when we do our deep dive into it. I think he ran because he knew that he was in trouble and that they didn't have any other suspects, and he was the one, and he knew he didn't do it, and he didn't think he had any other options. Think about it. If you know you didn't commit this horrific crime against your own wife, your own pregnant wife, and you know that you are the main suspect, and it looks like they're honing in on you, they're following you wherever you go, they are about to arrest you. And we've seen this before. And you are an overprivileged doofus white boy who doesn't want to be in the press anymore. You go and you dye your hair and you take whatever cash you can take with you and you head for the Mexican border. That's what Scott was going to do because he's a dummy. I don't think he ran because he did it. I think that would have been way worse for him. Because think about it. Like, let's say he ran and they figured out somebody else did it. He's not in a lot of trouble. He's in Mexico. If he runs to Mexico and they say he did it, they're coming after him. They're going to use the Mexican government to come after him. He didn't do it. He wanted more time. He wanted more time to prove that he didn't do it. That's my opinion. Let's see. Okay. Well, y'all, it's been friggin' real. Such a shitty dye job too. It was so bad. It was so bad. It was like a box dye job. Scott Peterson had really dark hair, and he went and got like blonde number 5, and he put that shit in his hair, and it turned orange, and he was a dummy. It was a really shitty dye job. and then for the rest of the footage, the coverage of him before like going into trial, he had that shitty ass dye job. It was so bad. Yeah, I hope Sam sums up my sentiments exactly. I hope everyone has something fun or peaceful to do today to decompress from these difficult topics. My partner and I are taking my son and her nephew to an O's game. I love that for you. I agree. And Lindsay and I are going to go see The Odyssey, though Rebecca says it's the loudest movie she's ever seen. I'm looking forward to it. We have a little luxury theater here where we can like kick back and have food brought to us. And like, it basically feels like you're in your living room with a giant screen and Dolby surround sound. And it's amazing. So that's like our luxury thing that we do is we go and pay extra for those, cushy seats and the food. But that's what we're going to do today. And the kids are off doing their summer things right now, but that's the plan. I'm going to see The Odyssey. Yeah, Jess, I agree with you. He ran because of fear of exactly what happened, being convicted of a crime he didn't commit. That's the easiest way to thank you for saying it so simply. I appreciate you. Okay. All right. Love y'all. Love y'all so much. I'm taking tomorrow off. I got some tennis to play. It's going to be nice and sunny here, but not too hot, which makes me happy. We will be back first thing Monday morning to talk about what's going on with the Turtle Boy cases and give you updates on everything else. If you like us, please tip us. Please subscribe, become a member. We have a lot of fun in our members only streams. They go off the rails every once in a while, but you get to see Becky. Like, Rebecca is, very calm and rational most of the time and very even-handed and can both sides the shit out of a situation. But when she gets a little bit of frosé in her, she starts talking about what Julie Albert's wearing and what they were like in high school. And she goes off on tangents and is hilarious. And I do my best to make her uncomfortable. We have a ton of fun. So become a member. It's not that expensive. I think the lowest membership is $2.99 and the highest membership is $5.99, hopefully. The higher membership gets you the added pop culture stream. So we do that at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. She's so unbuttoned, Rage Knitter says, and I love it too. She is so unbuttoned. She talks about, like, pretty much halfway through the members only streams, I'm like, Rebecca, go get yourself a grinder. Go get yourself a hot dog. Go eat something. This is out of control. Mel and Parrot Cup Becky are a great time. Yeah, I'm gonna toot my own horn here. We're pretty funny. We have a good time. If I've got to do a stream where I take a gummy though, but I'm so worried that neither one of us will be able to do anything that we're supposed to do, and then it'll just be nutty. Have a great weekend. I love you all. Keep singing the song. Have a good time. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, do all the things. We love you. Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm smart.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy hump day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett. Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy. And
the joylessness
I don't give
of those
a fucking
people. Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
This is literally because it's 100. It's been happening for the past day.
Oh, dear God. Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf is on the TV. Am I right? Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf is on the TV. I'm sorry. This is very funny.
What are you laughing about?
Because you're just sitting there waiting for the video to start.
I was listening this whole time. You
listening to what? You're not playing anything, and now you're frozen. God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me text Mel. Let me call Mel real quick. I'm going to call Mel.
No, I'm not answering your call. I'm not doing it.
I don't think.
Why is it? Oh, Jesus.
Maybe go back on the Wi-Fi.
I am back on the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now? Should we do the show now? Should we do the show now? Rebecca? Rebecca, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Internet. Hello.
Hello? Hello, worldwide interwebs. Can you hear me? Let's do this. I have to look at my phone over here.
We're going to go members only.
Something's off. We're the ones who chase. Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's off.